Okay, it is 6:31, and I'm going to call the meeting to order. Would the clerk call the roll, please?
Taylor,
Here.
Thorsland,
Here.
Vanish Thiernot,
Here.
Williams, Wolkin, Carter, Cowart, Esri,
Here.
Furtado,
Here.
Goss,
Here.
Harper,
Here.
King,
Here.
Lakshin,
Here.
McGuire,
Here.
Michaels, Pasalacqua, Paul,
Here.
Rodriguez,
Here.
Storr,
Here.
Straub,
Here.
Summers, Patterson.
Here.
Okay, there's a quorum present. I'll call the meeting. Yes. Is your speaker not working again? The IT person, we need to check on the speakers. Some of them aren't working. There might be an extra one. Yeah, you might try one of the other ones just to see, but I don't think, yeah. Mine is working. Okay. Sure. Okay. So we can hear them out of the PA system, but we're not hearing them out of the speaker system. Okay. Yeah, we can. Tim, just would you check on that for us and see if we can get to do that? Thank you. We now will say the Pledge of Allegiance. Tonight will be the last meeting of the county board before the end of fiscal year 21 is over. I'm pleased to see you here this evening, and I would like to say happy holidays to all of you, and I wish for you to have a happy holiday season with your families and friends during this next week or so. That's the thought for today. Next, will the clerk read the notice of the meeting, please?
Notice is hereby given that a regular meeting of the County Board, Champaign County, Illinois, will convene on December 16th, 2021, 6:30 p.m. in the Shields Carter Meeting Room, Brookings Administrative Center, 1776 East Washington Street, Urbana, Illinois, in said county for the purpose of allowing and ordering payments of claims against the county, receiving and acting upon matters of committees, and such other matters as may be brought before said meeting, which said meeting shall continue in session from day to day until the completion of said business.
Okay, thank you. Next is approval of the agenda, and we did have an addendum as well. Can I get a motion? Mr. Goss?
So moved.
Second? Ms. King? Mr. Patterson? Ms. King had her hand raised. Okay, discussion on the minutes, the agenda? Yeah, Mr. Patterson?
I wanted to add an item under presentations. It would be 8B. It's just a quick update from the recorder on the transition of the office.
Okay. Mr. Williams?
Is this the appropriate time to ask to remove something off the consent agenda?
Yes, you can take something off the consent agenda.
I would like to remove item B9.
Item B9 off of the consent agenda. With State's Attorney Appellate Program. Okay, that will be taken off for right now. Anything else?
Where will that be placed? Back into the
Yeah,
agenda?
we'll have to put it in, let's see. That'll have to be in business that's coming from the cow, I guess, under standing committees. Yeah, we'll place it back under areas of responsibility. We'll make it an item A there. because it will require a separate vote. Anything else? Okay, those in favor of the agenda?
Aye.
Those opposed? Okay, we have an agenda. Next is the date and time of our regular meetings. The standing committees in January are listed. So far, we do not have a study session, but there may be a study session called in January, depending on what we decide to do at that time. Committee of the Whole and the county board meetings, all at their regular times, are back again in January. Next is public participation. We do have a couple of members of the public here tonight. When I call on you, the speaker microphone is right here. You need to push down on the center button until the light shows red, and then try to speak directly into the microphone. You will have 5 minutes. The first person is Vincent Hawk. The clerk will keep track of the time for you up here on the screen.
First, I would like to thank the board for allowing me to speak here on an issue that has galvanized the townships, to say the least. And I got to offer this comment. We really thank Mr. Williams for his proposal to consolidate rural townships recently, because I have never seen in my tenure as I'm Vincent Hawk, Supervisor, Condit Township, have succeeded in galvanizing the townships like this issue. We have seen issues like this before in the state legislature as late as last year. And thanks to our representatives, including Carol Ammons, we defeated that issue in conference. It never left committee, rather. So that comes up every couple of years in the state legislature to dissolve townships. My first point I want to make to the board is that it's regarding the Laws and Duties Handbook, State of Illinois, to make sure that we all understand, if you ever entertain this actual proposal, is that a county board cannot, according to state law, dissolve or merge a township. That is illegal under the current state laws. So what it takes is, if the board of a township, the trustees, or a majority of the electors are residents only of a township, if they decide not to merge or dissolve, it is off the books and postponed and cannot be brought up for three additional years. That's the state law. And also, only the electors can dissolve or merge a township. That's those people who reside in the township, not the county board of Champaign. I'm going to make that very clear. The other thing, now aside from all that's the formal, that's the state law. But more important, and we just started to, this has really galvanized the supervisors, the clerks, the trustees, and we're going to go from here. And my goal is to, and somehow I wound up leading this, but at the moment, but there are better people out there than me in the townships. We want to provide you, the board, with a fiscal and management information over the next few months as to familiarize you with what a township actually does. That's my main goal. not just to say, oh, we're not going to merge, we're not going to dissolve. That's not, we're not going to say that. We want to prove the advantages and show you the advantages and disadvantages of what a township does. Give you one idea. I mean, we've talked, for example, the road commissioner. That's the number one, our roads. We have talked to Jeff. Every township talks to Jeff Blue, Champaign County Highway. He wouldn't touch a township for nothing. We have in Condit, which is a very, very rural, almost 100% we all farm, including me. We have 55 miles of oil and chip, 3 miles of rock, not even oil and chip. And for the people who don't understand what a township is, I'll give you an actual number. It costs to rebuild 1 mile of oil and chip. Now just think of that spread out if you had these huge townships. Cost $39,000 to rebuild 1 mile of oil and chip. And most townships have oil and chip. Jeff Blue has all asphalt and few miles. And he's union, and he pays rates. And once 8 hours is up, the rates go up, time and a half and twice. But anyhow, our total budget in Consett for maintaining 55 miles of road, tax levied, $110,000. We could not even, we maintain our roads with that amount of money on a township road commissioner, our road commissioner, who's paid $1,600 a month, half-time.
Your
So-
your time is getting up here. Can you wrap it up, please?
Am I up now? Okay. And that's average for, some townships are much richer than ours. But that's what we do, and the only job of a highway commissioner on the books, the law, he or she has to be able to plow snow. And you need a CDL for that. And we are professionals, believe me. We know what we're doing. Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Stanley, you're next.
Thank you. Good. Okay, just hit the button, huh? Oh, it's on. Okay, yeah, I can hear that. Okay, my name's Pastor Steve Stanley. I am native to Illinois, but I left Illinois in 1975 to join the Army, and I really never came back until 13 years ago. And I'm leaving next year. 13 years has been too long. The reason I'm here tonight, and I'll watch the clock, is that we have a problem with Liberty Commons. I'm a resident there. We have no law enforcement. The sheriff's department is tasked with patrolling, but they are not tasked to stop people for speeding, running red lights in a regular community. If you don't know about Liberty Commons, we've got, I think, about 400 and some odd homes in there. I live in one that cannot be moved. You see what I'm writing? This is my main source of transportation around Liberty Commons, and if I go to the mall or any place else. I have lights, additional lights that I put on front and back. 2 nights ago, I was late, and the sun was down, so I had everything on, very visible. I usually have a flag up here. A guy coming down Columbia Boulevard, and that's where I'm talking about, Columbia Boulevard. It's a toss-up between county and management and ownership of the various owners that we've had since I've been here. Who owns Columbia Boulevard? The problem is with it that the sheriff's department is not allowed to cite anybody, even if they see it. they can give them a warning, but they're not allowed to cite. Last night, coming off of Columbia Boulevard, I got passed by a black car. Couldn't see the license plate. He passed me so close that I could feel it. I could feel the air go by me. I yelled as loud as I could. He stopped, rolled his window down. What's the matter? I said, you darn near killed me. You almost hit me. He says, oh, well. I said, do you live here? No, I wouldn't live in this place. Oh, okay. Well, I'm just kind of wondering because you're going as fast as possible, it seems like. So he said, Guy, let me explain something to you. He says, I live in the area. He says, it is well known throughout the entire area that if you want to take a shortcut from whatever this road is, Carroll Fire District, fire station is on, to Cunningham Avenue to get onto I-74, you go as fast as you can down Columbia Boulevard, then Liberty or Independence. And I live on Independence, 2 houses in from the sign welcome you to Liberty Commons. He said, it's well known, management doesn't give a crap, the county doesn't give a crap, and he said, you guys are a red herring. And he said, and we all know it. He says, that, and of course, unfortunately, the residents do it too. Older folks like me, I'm 64, older folks, we aren't going to do that. But you got all makes and models of folks that live in Liberty Commons, and they blow stop signs all over the place. They speed as fast as they can, but it still remains that this guy said it's well known in the entire area that you can go through Liberty Commons on Columbia Boulevard as fast as you want, and if you hit someone, oh well, too damn bad. And that's what the guy said. He says, yeah, I know I almost hit you. He says, I wasn't paying attention to you. So, folks, I've talked to a committee member today. I've talked to Mr. Blue today. And what I've told him is this. I'm leaving in a year to go back to New Jersey. That's where I came from. Well, guess what? In the meantime, if I get hit or I get hurt or killed, my son in New Jersey is going to use every connection he's got to put the incident, the accident, to national news. Because we have no law enforcement from the sheriff's department. They can respond to emergencies, to every place else, Betsy Ross, where they always respond to because of the crime, but nothing else. We're taxpayers, but it doesn't seem to matter. So thank you for nothing, because you guys control what goes on to the elected officials. And so far, in the 13 years that I've lived here, I know my time is out, but in the 13 years that I've been back in Illinois, after over 20 years, I am not impressed with where I live. I'm not impressed with this county, and that's a shame. I've been involved in politics out in New Jersey. As the gentleman said about townships, our lowest form of government in New Jersey are the townships. We have township government and township police departments. But here, Sheriff's Department is very thin, but you have somebody die on Columbia Boulevard because somebody's speeding. If I'm still around, I'm going to make sure it goes national. And then I'm going to explain how we have no law enforcement that can do anything. They can respond to an emergency, but that's all. Thank you.
Okay, are there any other members of the public that wish to speak this evening? Okay, we're closing public participation and moving on now to our presentation for the evening. This is Mimi Hutchinson. Rita, do you want to introduce this, or Do you want Mimi just to introduce herself? Okay.
Hello. Hi, everybody. I'm Mimi Hutchinson, and I am a transportation planner at RPC. I am here to present the fiscal year 2021 annual report for C-CARTS, which is the rural public transportation service here in Champaign County. First of all, I apologize for the glitchy text on the slide. That's a USB issue, I think. So we present our fiscal year reports annually, usually in August, but this year we're doing it in December. We've had quite a bit of turnover with C-CARTS and other delays, so that's why we're doing it now. I'm guessing most of you aren't familiar with C-CARTS, so I'm going to give you all a little bit of background information. So in February 2011, Chris RMTD began operating rural public transit service in Champaign County. In October of 2014, CUMTD began operating that rural public transit service, and it became known as C-CARTS, or Champaign County Area Rural Transit System. In September 2016, C-CARTS established a service agreement with the Village of Rantoul to provide deviated fixed route service. And C-CARTS is now operated by MTD, overseen by RPC, and we're funded by FTA and IDOT grants, plus that service contract with the Village of Rantoul. C-CARTS provides public rural transportation in Champaign County Monday through Friday from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. There is a fixed route service called the Eagle Express, and another fixed route called the Rantoul Connector, which provides service from Rantoul to and from Champaign-Urbana. And then there's also demand response service that's curb to curb, so you can call in 2 or more business days prior to your requested ride, and someone will pick you up at your door and take you right where you've requested to go. And C-CARTS has a nice website. It's ccarts.com. If you have, if you want more information, you can visit the website. C-CARTS currently has 13 medium-duty buses, 1 minivan, and a total of 14 buses total, and the 13 medium-duty buses hold 14 passengers each, and the average vehicle age is 5 years. Here's one of our buses in the Illinois Terminal parking lot. I'm going to go into our current funding sources. So back in fiscal year 2020, we applied for a Rebuild Illinois capital project with a $107,000 award. It was awarded in early November 2020. The funds were released in spring 2021, and that award included 2 medium-duty buses and 13 bus camera systems. Because of supply chain shortages, the bus delivery has been delayed, but the camera installation is currently underway. This year, we applied for another Rebuild Illinois capital project grant worth $134,000, and that includes 2 replacement buses. So we're not adding to the net total of our fleet. We're just going to replace 2 of our oldest buses. And then we are also getting funding from the federal government through the CARES Act, which is the emergency response to COVID. We're going to be getting up to $466,000 in fiscal year 2022. The application is upcoming in January, and we're planning to apply to fund about 10 bus stop shelters in Rantoul for our fixed route service there, as well as wireless capability for the camera units that we are getting installed right now. I'm not as familiar with this, but there's another funding source called 5339B, which is also from the federal government. The release of this funding is upcoming. It'll be worth $260,000, and we would like to apply for 4 total buses, some replacement and some new. As I mentioned in the beginning, C-Carts has a service contract with the Village of Rantoul, so they pay us to provide that fixed route service between Champaign-Urbana and Rantoul daily. And then we have another service contract kind of in the works with the Champaign Unit 4 School District. We are looking to help them transport students who live in rural Champaign County. It's already been approved by the federal government, FTA, and IDOT. And we have discussed this in our Champaign County Rural Transit Advisory Group. And we're still waiting on an official agreement with approval from the Champaign Unit 4 School District, the MTD board, RTAG, and the county board. This is a little hard to read if you don't have a screen in front of you, but basically it shows that C-Cart's ridership has actually increased since fiscal year 20, which is really not surprising, but it's kind of an anomaly in the transportation world, especially during COVID. Most agencies have seen decreases in ridership, so this is pretty special. And I'll go into more detail now about our ridership and our service characteristics. So I mentioned earlier that we have fixed route service and then demand response service. We don't collect this detailed information about fixed route, so everything that I'm talking about now is demand response only. But we do collect information about trip types. So I'm going to be going into how the trends in trip types since fiscal year 2020. So there's been a tiny decrease in medical trips since fiscal year 2021, a small increase in personal trips, a decrease in shopping trips, 100% decrease in social trips for obvious reasons, also a small decrease in employment, and then a really huge increase in education-related trips. These are system-wide service characteristics. Again, so we have senior trips here, and then lift use. Lift use is when the bus operator drops the ramp for a person with disabilities to come onto the bus. So we've seen a small decrease in trips with seniors and a small increase in lift use since fiscal year 2020. And then this is a comparison between demand response and fixed route trips. So there's been an overall decrease in demand response trips since fiscal year 2020, but an increase in fixed route trips. And then in the box, the total trips, this is the number that really matters. And this is the ridership increase that I mentioned earlier. We've seen a 9% ridership increase overall since fiscal year 2020, which is really great, and a decrease in trip denials, which is when somebody calls in and requests a trip that C-Carts is not able to fulfill for them that day. So decrease in trip denials, increase in ridership, those are both really good things to see. We've also had a small increase in registered riders since fiscal year 2020. And this is a breakdown of our grant funding. So this is all during fiscal year 2021 now. We were awarded $153,871 from the federal government through the 5311 grant program, and we expended that total amount. We were awarded $723,852,000 from the state through the downstate operating funding source, and we expended 202,283 of those dollars. And then from the CARES Act, we were awarded $579,840, and we expended that total amount in fiscal year 2021. And that's all. So feel free to ask questions. I have two of my colleagues back here who can help me answer any questions you might have. And we are requesting approval from the board to place our report on file.
Mr. Ezra?
I would move to place the report on file.
Okay, I don't think we actually need a motion to do that, but we will place your report on file, Mimi. Are there any questions for her, Mr. Storr?
This is kind of an obvious one. Could you go back a slide?
Oops.
Or is the DOAP difference between awarded and expended because just hasn't, rest of the fiscal year is before us?
So IDOT actually operates on a slightly different fiscal year schedule than the county board. I believe the reason we didn't expend the full DOPE amount is because we got so much from CARES and we reached our budget, but Rita will elaborate.
Yeah. There are two reasons why we didn't spend the DOPE funding. We never spend the DOPE funding that we receive for sick cards every year, and the reason for that is that we need to have a local match for that DOPE funding, and we are not, and the local match comes from local contracts. At this time, we only have one contract. It's the contract with Rantoul. That's why we are looking at the possibility of providing transportation services for the school district for the students living in the rural area as another contract. Then the more local contracts that we have, the more local match that we'll have to be able to match the state funding. That's one reason. But this year in particular, fiscal year 21, because we received the CARES funding, the direction from IDOT was to use first the CARES funding before we use the state funding. And that's why we left so much funding unexpended from the state.
Thank you. I noticed that you require 2-day advance notice for the trips there. Can you accommodate people if they need a trip and they have less than 2 days notice?
I have MTD.
No, and that's a great question. We absolutely do where we can. Mostly if we have a vehicle that we know is going to be in St. Joseph at 9:30 on Wednesday morning, right? Then it's easy for us in advance to build trips around that and know that we can add trips in Ogden, St. Joseph, maybe Philo if a trip's coming from Homer. Before that, we can work with that. If a trip comes in less than 48 hours, if something fits into one of those slots as those windows have been made, then certainly we do try to accommodate that. It just becomes less likely as the schedule has already been kind of solidified. Does that make sense?
Ms. Lakshan?
Thank you for the presentation. That was all very informative. I just was curious, what would be a typical reason for denial of service?
At this point, it's largely just the same types of driver shortages that we're seeing in most of the commercial transportation world. We have made some great strides in hiring more. We're really hoping to improve that, but that's really the main one.
Mr. McGuire?
Thank you. Thank you both. It's great to see that the ridership increased even during COVID. It's important, obviously, for people to be able to get to medical appointments, and the seniors, and the hard work. It's not really a question, just encouragement to keep working. I think the denial numbers are actually down, if I remember, even in this situation. But anyway, keep going. Thank you for coming, and great job.
Go ahead.
Thanks for all the work you do. I've ridden C-carts. It's a good service. I know. Are you allowed to do contracts with certain employers as a way to increase ridership, as a way to think about maybe as like as a carpool service?
No, and it's a great question. We've looked at all sorts of entities, like especially with the village of Rantoul, we've looked at kind of doing contracts with the major employment centers, with the factories, as part of that contract with the public entity, which is partially what we do now. There are a few different ways something like that can be funded. Yeah, as I have understood in general, we've really tried to bring those public partners to the table in that way. Okay. I'm getting the nod from Rita, which is good.
Okay, thank you all for coming tonight. Your report will be placed on file. Okay, we had addition to our agenda for us the presentation by the recorder, who is completing his last month with the county.
Hi, everybody. Hello, Champaign County Board members, elected officials, staff, and county residents here and at home. This being the last county board meeting during my tenure as Recorder of Deeds, I felt compelled to give an outgoing report on the office and its transition. A year ago, I asked you to place a referendum on the ballot to eliminate my own elected position. I didn't do it lightly. I had heavily researched the myriad counties that had already combined their clerk and recorder offices, and even some of the counties that had never had a separate recorder. A year later, following the successful passing of the referendum, I can definitively say that not one day has there been a situation where I thought, oh no, this county really does need a standalone recorder. Part of the reason for that is the amazing staff in my office, all of whom will be retained. I wouldn't have embarked down this path if it had even potentially cost one other person their job. Despite the assertion of certain folks, including members on this board, that the recorder's office would implode if I was elected to it, the office never slowed down or had a lag in document processing, and in fact, we just had the best recording year in history by all accounts. That either means that I am the greatest recorder that this county has ever seen, if you follow certain people's logic, or that I was correct that the staff will continue to do just fine without a standalone elected recorder. In my view, they will continue to do fantastic work under the stewardship of the county clerk's office. For those who use the recorder's office regularly, likely the only thing that they will notice is different will be the name on the stamp. Clerk Recorder Ammons and Chief Deputy Patton have been a pleasure to work with on this transition and will do a great job when I'm gone. But before that, here's a snapshot of what we were able to accomplish in just 1 year. We recorded over 30,000 documents, which I believe is a first from all history that I could see. We brought in more revenue to the county's general fund than in any previous year. For our free property fraud alert program that keeps our constituents safe and gives them peace of mind, we added over the last year more than 6 times the amount of people that were added the year before I took office, and double the amount of people who had been added in the entire 4 years before I took office. We also outpaced the previous year in military discharge papers recorded, with a drive to get more of those in. And we more than tripled the amount of local businesses taking part in our free honor rewards program offering discounts to veterans. We established a free mask tree outside of both of our doors that has seen over 2,000 masks taken from it. We also established a free coat and warm clothes rack that has seen over 400 pieces disappear from it, along with an accompanying mini pantry. We also diverted over 100 coats to the Cunningham Township office, where they were put directly into the hands of people who needed them to survive. We added wayfinding information to the hallways of Pod 200 to help reduce staff time spent giving directions around the labyrinth that we call home. We directed hundreds of dollars of donations to our drastically underfunded single-person staffed Veterans Assistance Commission. We identified problematic past policies to stop the hemorrhaging of county documents being harvested by national companies for their own benefit. We ran a Black History Month series detailing the unfortunately short history of Black elected officials in our county that was picked up by 2 local publications. We were highlighted by our recording software vendor, Fiddler Technologies, for the work with free masks and coats, which came with a donation from Fiddler to a local nonprofit of my choice, which I went with First Followers. We worked with State Treasurer Mike Frericks, who used to occupy a seat on this board, and Controller Susan Mendoza to return several $1,000s of unclaimed money to our county. Took the title of recorder to a whole new level by recording several songs, some that you might even call bangers, in our vault after hours and uploaded as fundraisers for various charities. Tried to start several fights with the punks over in the treasurer's office. Gave blood 5 times. They really, really need blood donations, folks. Pushed for the state legislature to pass a law that would allow easier removal of unlawful racial covenants from old county documents and spoke with their legal team about it. Appeared on local news 24 times to speak about deed scams, racial covenants, and more. Appeared nationally on Good Morning America to speak specifically about deed scams. Made one guy in Urbana mad by adding a rainbow pride profile picture frame on Facebook, while also highlighting the very brief history of LGBTQ+ elected officials in this county. Increased the engagement on said Facebook page over tenfold, leading to an increased community knowledge about deed scams and even the exemptions that they are allowed to claim on their property. Fixed several pay equity issues within my office. Collected goods for Afghan refugees being brought to Camp Atterbury in Indiana, not Urbana. Earned a LEAP, which is Leaders in Employing All People certificate, and moved historical maps and documents from the recorder's personal office out to the main customer area so that constituents could enjoy them. Still, there were a few things that I wanted to do, but that the pandemic and/or short time frame didn't allow. Most people in the county don't know what the recorder's office does or how it can benefit them. I really wanted to make personal appearances at small-town community buildings and North End churches and more to speak about the office, and then sit there with a laptop and be able to search people's property records for them on the spot. For some folks, coming into the office might not be possible. I've spoken with Clerk Ammons about potentially doing this next year just as a liaison for the office and hope to be able to make that happen. I wanted to host monthly open houses, maybe occasionally during outside of office hours, where people could come in and learn how to search property records, prepare their own deeds, and more. Tomorrow afternoon at 3:30, I'll be testing this idea out, so here's an open invitation to anyone wanting to visit my office or learn how it works or how they can make it work for themselves. That includes county board members. Lastly, I want desperately to digitize our entire vault. I've spoken about it many times. I've posted pictures of the books that are falling apart. This is the history of our county, and as they continue to degrade from being handled, we increase the risk of losing them forever. If you're not swayed by the historical aspect, well, the more documents we have digitized, the more money the county can make from remote searching and printing. I urge the board to keep an eye out for plans to digitize both the recorder's and clerk's vaults and do whatever it takes to make it happen. My predecessor started to go down this path, but unfortunately did a lot of work in-house and left us with a bunch of images that are not up to industry specifications and can't be added to our vendors' programs. Perhaps that's because he didn't think the board would allot the money. I'm saying to you, allot the money. I would also recommend to the board that you adopt a policy by which any elected official creating a website outside of the control of our IT department shall be required to do so only using county-controlled accounts, just so that you never run into a situation where somebody loses an election and then is in a position where they might be tempted to use official things that they created outside of the county in a malicious way. I'll close by saying that I wouldn't have had nearly the success that I had in 1 year if it hadn't been for the help of some incredible people who work in this building. For one, Tammy Ogden and Suzanne Brock never once laughed at any of the questions that might have sounded stupid to them as I was learning our archaic county financial systems. They are part of the glue that holds this building together, along with several folks in multiple departments from admin services to building services. One thing that was evident to me in my 2 years on the county board, and even more so this year, is that we do not take particularly good care of the staff in our buildings making an hourly wage. I've seen board members speak of them as if they were leeches lining up to suck the government dry, when in reality, they're mostly just people who want to be of service to county residents while being able to put food on the table. This county should be doing better by them. It might help the frequency of our job openings. It has been my distinct honor to be the county's last recorder of deeds. I'm thrilled that we were able to accomplish what we set out to do, even if I'll always feel like there was more for me to do. I leave that in the hands of Clerk/Recorder Ammons, Chief Deputy Clerk Angie Patton, Chief Deputy Recorder Tony Caesar, Senior Clerk Barb McLean, Clerk Sorry. Clerk Sherry Janeski. Clerk Mimi Montoya, and Clerk Christopher Jellin. I have no doubt that they will continue the high level of service that this county has come to know from the Champaign County Recorder's Office. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. Okay, now we're moving on to the agenda item for consent agenda. As you recall, we took off item B9, but otherwise we are looking for a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So-
Mr. Esri,
So moved.
okay. Can I get a second? Ms. Lokshin? Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Oh, I'm sorry. You're right. Roll call.
Taylor.
Yes.
Thorsland.
Yes.
Finish Theronot.
Yes.
Williams.
Yes.
Esri.
Yes.
Furtado.
Yes.
Goss.
Yes.
Harper.
Yes.
King.
Yes.
Lokshin.
Yes.
McGuire.
Yes.
Paul.
Yes.
Rodriguez.
Yes.
Storr.
Yes.
Straub.
Yes.
Summers.
Yes.
Patterson.
Yes.
Okay, the motion carries. Now we're on to communications. Does any member of the board have a communication regarding business for the board? Mr. Straub.
Yep, I'd like to first wish our chair, Kyle Patterson, a happy birthday because he loves that stuff. And second, thank all of the adults here who are showing care for their fellow community members by wearing their masks correctly and consistently during this record time of COVID spread. I know that my children are able to do it all day, every day, correctly and without showing their naked nose. And I'm just really happy that most of the adults here can do that as well.
Anything else? Communication for the board? Mr. McGuire.
Sure, thank you. In regards to the masks, because I know that was made an issue on the Democrats' website, when I have my glasses on and my mask up, my glasses fog up and I can't see, or it's hard to drink water. We make these points all the time. We do the best that we can. I'd like to see that continue. The other thing is, happy birthday, Mr. Patterson. It's actually Stan Harper's birthday also.
Mr. Williams, you had
Kyle,
something?
are you buying the birthday beer?
Go ahead, Mr. Williams.
I would like to thank the Honorable Township Supervisor Hawk from Condit Township for coming. Township government provides critical services to the public. I want to be clear, I'm pro-township government for obvious reasons. However, every time I read the News Gazette and there's an article about township government, the question is asked, do we really need 30? I think the answer is no. I have an open mind, and I hope that fear-mongering by entrenched politicians does not prevent us from having a conversation. The county board does have the power to start a process, but again, I would like to start a conversation. Supervisor Hawk, I tried to go online and find some more information about Condit Township, and I went to the comptroller's website, and I noticed that the annual report that was due back in September is delinquent. So it was a little hard for me to find relevant information. I'm sure it was just oversight, but you should probably get that report in.
Further communication from the county board? Okay, seeing none, we'll move on to approval for the minutes. Can the executive get a motion to approve the minutes of November 18th for the regular meeting and December 8th, 2021, both for the special meeting? So moved. Sorry, who's? Mr. Thorsland? Who? Ms. Lee, Ms. Taylor? Any further discussion? Mr. Storr?
I submitted some corrections and amplification.
Okay. I'm sorry, what do you want to make a correction about?
I submitted that, and I think clerk may have received that. Okay.
You've already given it to the clerk? Okay, thank you. Any further comments, corrections? Those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. Okay, next is the Standing Committee Summary of Action taken on December 9th, 2021 at the meeting of the Environment and Land Use Committee is received and placed on file. Next is the Summary of Action taken December 8th, 2021 at the Committee of the Whole is received and placed on file. We now have the agenda item that was taken off of the consent agenda, item B9. And I'm looking for a motion to approve, let's see, adoption of resolution number 2021-365, renewing the state's attorney's appellate prosecutor program for fiscal year 22. Can I get such
So
a
moved.
motion?
Second.
Sorry, Mr. Goss? I'm sorry, Mr. McGuire? Mr. Patterson, you second? Okay, discussion on the item? We just wanted to vote on it separately? Okay. All right, let's vote. Those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed?
No.
Okay, one vote no, it passes. Okay, moving on. We're down to new business. Can the executive get a motion to approve item A for adoption of resolution number 2021-368, honoring retiring county employees?
So moved.
Mr. Goss, can I get a second? Mr. Storr? Mr. Storr, would you like to read the resolution, please?
Thank you, County Executive Klippel. I'd like to read the resolution number 2021-368, a resolution honoring retiring county employees. Whereas it is the vision of Champaign County Board to be recognized leader in local government where every official and employee has personal devotion to excellence in public service and embraces the highest standards of ethics and integrity, which enable Champaign County to provide the best customer services to its citizens. And whereas one element of pursuing this vision is communicating to employees that their service to Champaign County is both valued and appreciated. And whereas Champaign County employees admirably serve the people of Champaign County with full commitment to the responsibility of county offices, work in partnership with fellow employees and county officials, and have dedication to the best interests of all the people of Champaign County. And whereas the Champaign County Board wishes to recognize the dedication and service of the employees who are retiring in fiscal year 2021. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Champaign County Board recognizes each of the aforementioned retiring Champaign County employees as an asset to the citizens of Champaign County and express our gratitude and sincere appreciation for their years of service. And with your permission, I will read the names of those retiring. Barbara J. Mann with 7 years of service. James Alsip with 15 years of service. David C. Wall with 16 years of service. Alicia Hibbs with 17 years of service. Carla J. Simmering with 19 years of service. Thomas L. Key with 20 years of service. Lane Trail with 20 years of service. Erin Selena Ramirez Wolf with 20 years of service. Mark J. Driscoll with 22 years of service. Norman J. Meeker with 24 years of service. Mark Edwards with 43 years of service. presented, adopted, and approved and recorded this 16th day of December, Anno Domini 2021.
Okay, thank you. And sometimes we do have members come to the meeting to be receiving of their, we do have a clock that we give each of the retiring employees. I have the clocks up here, but no one is here this evening. So we'll just thank them. They will get the clocks later this week. Okay, I need a vote on this motion. Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Okay, thank you. Moving on then to the next item, can I get a motion to approve, let's see, resolution number 2021-369, honoring the county employees for milestone years of service. Ms. King?
So moved.
Thank you.
I'll second.
Mr. Patterson? The second, any further discussion? Okay, would you like to read those, please, Mr. Storr?
Thank you, County Executive Kleppel. I'd be glad to. A resolution honoring county employees, number 2021-369. Whereas it is the vision of Champaign County Board to be a recognized leader in local government, whereas every official employee has a personal devotion to excellence in public service and embraces the highest standards of ethics and integrity, which enable Champaign County to provide the best customer services to its citizens. And whereas one element of pursuing this vision is communicating to employees that their service to Champaign County is valued and appreciated, and whereas Champaign County employees admirably serve the people of Champaign County with full commitment to the responsibility of county offices, work in partnership with fellow employees and county officials, and have dedication to the best interests of all the people of Champaign County. And whereas the Champaign County Board wishes to recognize the dedication and services of the employees who have reached milestones 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, and 40-year milestones in fiscal year 2021. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Champaign County Board that the County Board of Champaign County hereby recognizes each of the aforementioned Champaign County employees as an asset to the citizens of Champaign County and expresses gratitude and sincere appreciation for their years of service. With your permission, ma'am, I will read these. Antonio Cruz, 5 years of service. Brienne Williver, 5 years of service. Christopher Grovier, 5 years of service. Corey Christensen, 5 years of service. Dylan Bullard, 5 years of service. Gregory Hesselman, 5 years of service. Jerry Mabry, 5 years of service. Leslie Erdman, 5 years of service. Megan Robinson, 5 years of service. Paula Bates, 5 years of service. Robert Vilvan, 5 years of service. Chandra Somerville, 5 years of service. Stephanie Clemens, 5 years of service. Suzanne Brock, 5 years of service. Teresa Klein, 5 years of service. Tiffany Kalakowski, 5 years of service. Sabrina Howe, 5 years of service. Ashley Sharpless, Sheila Ellis, Melissa Heath, Shuaki Wuzati, Michelle Reed, Lily Seals, Carolyn Walker, Tiara Smith, Audrey Owens, Jennifer Sims, Carrie Pruitt, all with 5 years of service. Brad Wakefield, Casey Donovan, Christopher Hamill, Howard Wilson, John M. Dwyer, Carla J. Smart, Nicole Lutz, Sarah Goodwin, Chantel Jones, Heather Pacheco, Damaris Winston, Wayne Duke, Wayne Duke, all with 10 years of service. Ellen Gawthorpe, Jenna Good, Lacey Busboom, Luke Smith, Melissa Jameson, Randall Plankenhorn, Ryan Snyder, Stacy Goad, Stacy Byers, Sue S. Sillilac, pardon me, Travis Patswith, Amber Barnes, Erica Moss, Linda Fogerson, all with 15 years of service. Chad Beasley, Jennifer Kreitz, Maureen C. Thompson, Nicole Liffick, Peggy Mills, Wes Miller, Wes Miller, all with 20 years of service. Brandon Riestek, David Cardani, David Applebaum, Julie Roish, Kimberly Ritchie, Mark McAllister, Michelle Menenga, Randy Castile, Stuart Shaw, Sherry Fritzell, Brandy Grants, all with 25 years of service. Debbie Heiser, 35 years of service. And Mark Plotner, 40 years of service.
Thank you. So now we're voting on approval. Those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. Great. So the employees that are at these various year milestones are given a catalog with choices of things that they can order for that number of years of service, and they will be doing that also this week. For the board to know also that recognition was made for the entire staff, not just folks reaching these milestones, but this on this day every year we do recognize the appreciation of the board by distributing cookies, cupcakes, or donuts to departments, to all employees, and they all got that this morning as well. So thank you very much. Okay, we are now moving on to items C through E. Is there any objection to taking these as an omnibus motion? And Jeff is here if you have questions. Okay. Can I get a motion for item adopting resolution number 2021-370, awarding the contracts for aggregate materials for the 2022 maintenance of various road districts in Champaign County, the adoption of resolution number 2021-371, awarding contracts for bridge rehabilitation, section number 19-00075-00-BR, and adoption of resolution number 2021-372, awarding contracts for road construction, section number 20-00455-00-RS.
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Summers. Second, Mr. Harper. Okay, as I said, Mr. Blue is here tonight. If there's questions, usually these pass through the Highway Committee, but they got here too late for the committee this month. So any further discussion? Okay, those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. Thanks for coming, Jeff. Okay, next we have items F and G from the auditor's office. Can I get a motion for adoption of resolution number 2021-373, authorizing payment of claims, and adoption of resolution number 2021-374, authorizing purchases not following purchasing policy? Ms. Furtado? Okay, thank you. Second?
Second.
Ms. Straub? Any discussion? Seeing none, those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Okay, the motion carries. Okay, moving down. Can the executive get a motion to approve item H, adoption of resolution number 2021-375, appointing Andy Graham to the Public Aid Appeals Committee? Mr. Patterson, thank you. Get a second? Mr. McGuire, any discussion on this item? Seeing none, those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Okay, motion carries. Can the executive get a motion to approve item I? This was the item from the addendum, and the copy of the ordinance has been provided at your table. I think there was a draft circulating earlier. This is the final version, after having been vetted by the GIS department and the state's attorney. Can I get a motion? Ms. Taylor, second? Ms. Van Each there or not? Discussion. Mr. McGuire.
Thank you. I just want to make a few comments about the map. Obviously, the district that I'm currently in is quite a bit smaller. My concern and what I want to make the public aware of is how this board continues to diminish the representation of the county, of rural areas of the county, and the people that represent them. We see further tonight that next is Townships. It's interesting to me, Mr. Williams did not discuss if he's interested in making government smaller. Champaign City and Cunningham, which are coterminous to both cities and have less responsibility than the county rural townships. Our township during the tornadoes, work days, cleaning up the tornado areas of heavy damage in rolling acres. Finally, we see a constant move to consolidate and move precincts out of the rural areas into the cities, or move the rural area precincts. So obviously, the public should know how much rural representation their schools, roads, polling places will receive as this board moves forward. Thank you.
Any other discussion? Seeing none, those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Okay, I think we need raising hands here. How many in favor? 1, 2, 3, 12. How many opposed? 5. Okay, thank you. Motion carries. All right, now we're down to the discussion information items. Kathy Larson is here to give a brief update on the ARPA situation right now.
Good evening. In my, excuse me, in the memorandum that I included, just some highlights. The first report is still due at the end of January as of now, and there's been no update, no change. That's still the interim rule and not the final rule, and we're still waiting for the reporting portal to have the form that's needed for the details that we'll need to report on. So that's not yet available, just as an update. I also included the chart in section 2 about what you've committed to date for the future for ARPA funds and the general categories. And then I've also included an updated timeline for the various tasks for each of the major categories as well. In the packet tonight, there's also regarding affordable housing assistance, the See You at Home agreement for services that would be ready to proceed, and just other updates. We continue to have the broadband consultant working on the analysis of the county broadband status. We also are working with departments for costs for 2022 that they'll need to have purchase orders for. And we also have been talking with the sanitary district on their needs, and we'll be looking at that more in January. We also have discussed with RPC about mortgage or sewer assistance and the status of that. And so we'll be taking a look at that more in January as well. We also have the immigrant service organizations that have provided recommendations for that, and we'll be taking a look at that in January as well. And then I also wanted to mention, I was asked to talk about the Urbana ARPA dollars. Currently, they are in process of developing a concept plan over the next several months, and that plan would provide a framework for how they would seek out proposals for funding or categories that they want to focus on. So at this time, they're not accepting requests for funding. They're going to go through this concept plan process for the next several months. And that's a major update. Those are the main things I wanted to mention tonight.
Any questions for Kathy?
Just a quick one. I know that Midnight Basketball might be emailing. I didn't know if they had actually done that for, hadn't got a.
Not yet.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Ms. Furtado.
I just wanted to thank Kathy for your work on this and for this is a lot easier version to read, and I recognize that you're doing about like 17,000 different projects, so thank you for that. I also wanted to just take a quick moment to commend the city of Champaign, who in a marathon meeting last evening passed what I think is a truly visionary plan to address the ongoing community violence, and they put a significant part of their ARPA resources to that effort. So because of that, and because as Kathy was just saying, Urbana is still working through their process, I really do think specifically for that item that we've allocated funding for, the addressing community violence, that we need to engage in a similar plan in order to ensure that the funding that we have is targeted in the gaps, right? Because we want to make sure that the funding that we have and that we can allocate is being used in a way that is in concert and with those other funds. I also wanted to specifically mention, and I've spoken with this with several of my Republican colleagues and with Executive Cobble, and we talked about it at the ELUC meeting, but specifically, as we go through these, we don't necessarily have to vote on all of the things that we've allocated money for, but the one set of funding that we probably will, well, not probably, that we will have to vote for is specifically with the rural water, because those are going to be intergovernmental agreements. And so the thought, and we've given the rural districts an allocation of money. The thought on process that we have is that you bring those to Executive Clappel, get it all worked out, and then we bring them to ELUC, just because, quite frankly, the cow is usually pretty full. And so therefore, that would be an opportunity to have a more robust conversation and give those folks a chance to really talk through their proposals, with the understanding we would never just vote on them and not bring them to the full, we would bring them to the full board for the full board's approval. We wouldn't put them on consent, but just instead of running those through the cow, running those through ELUC, since they're the folks that it just seems like a more natural fit and usually has a slightly lighter agenda than the cow. So at least that's the process that we've talked about. So hopefully, if that's okay with all of you, that process to me makes a lot of sense. But thank you for all of your hard work. And I said this to my caucus earlier. I mean, there's just so much work to be done with all of these. So if you're really passionate about something on here, please contact these folks so that we can get these going. Because again, it gets late early with this kind of stuff, and especially with some of the things that I don't want us to miss funding cycles. I also wanted to just mention that there's a series. I think getting that grant position in place is important. Executive Clappel has been sending me different grants. So just to give you a heads up, there's a grant called Restore, Reinvest, and Renew from the state, which is specifically using cannabis tax money to address community violence. We're going into the second round of that, I think, will be due upcoming. That was announced last week. Last year, the original broadband date for grants was in April, and it got pushed back to October, mostly because of COVID. I don't know if that's going to happen again. Eric's parking lot grant that he loves to talk about is going to be due this spring. And so those grants, the opportunity to leverage those money, we need to act quickly on that. And so making sure that we get that position in place will be very important so that we can, I think this is also really important. You cannot use ARPA money to match federal money, but you can use ARPA money to match state money. And so we want to make sure that we, over the lifespan of this grant, take advantage of as many of those opportunities as we can. So I just wanted to add all that in, but mostly just speak on the rural water process. And that's all I had.
So we don't actually need to vote again on the See You at Home project. You all agreed you wanted to do that at the last meeting, but, and we do have money budgeted for it, so we'll just go ahead and process that. We did want to bring the contract back to you so that you can see what it will look like, because all the details were not worked out. And so a lot of these are going to be like that, where there's negotiating going on about what the final price is or the final activities. So I will always bring those back to the board just to share them with you and show you. You know, if anybody has objection, let me know. If you're interested in helping write the contracts, fine. But they all have to be vetted by several people before we can get done with them. And there's usually a rush, so we're trying to get this one out by the 1st of January. So, any other questions? Yeah, Stephanie.
I just specifically wanted to congratulate, especially on page 11 and 12, or 8 and 10, depending on which way you're reading this. There's a ARPA risk assessment form and an ARPA reporting form that I assume are just going to be standard for all of these. And I know this is something that has been brought up by various board members about how do we make sure that we have fiscally responsible, that follow all of the guidelines. So I appreciate that y'all have developed a tool to ensure that compliance, and I think that's super important, so thank you for that.
Okay. Just for you to know, the other possible project that would be coming forward is we do have the sheriff's full body scanner. He gave you the report on that, where he's ordered, and also the EMA vehicle. The next thing will be an IT project. We've talked about potentially IT things that are needed and if we can put them in ARPA or not. The next important thing that we need for IT is our cybersecurity upgrades, which will involve multi-factor authentication for our cybersecurity. We have to do that or we can't move forward. So we're thinking that's going to cost in the neighborhood of $30,000 or so. And we'll get it for everybody in the county so that everybody, because we're just doing so much remote things, we can't operate without it anymore. And that we believe that will be available through, I mean, ARPA obviously is wanting us to be able to work remotely and that sort of thing. So that'll be the next thing probably. Yeah.
How soon will that be implemented, ma'am?
The what?
How soon will that cybersecurity be?
We are getting quotes right now and trying to get it implemented by January, hopefully in January, because it's really important that we get it in soon. We can't do a lot of other things until we get it, and our insurance is at risk in addition. So
I was going to say, there's been a public cybersecurity threat issued. And
yeah, it's just because we have so many people working remotely now, and also we have a lot of, like LIHEAP, people can sign up for their appointments remotely. We just have a lot of vulnerabilities right now, so we have to get that taken care of. Yeah. Okay, so that's it. Thanks for coming, Kathy. Okay, let's see. Do we have something else on? I'm looking to see if I'm missing anything here. I think that's it for the business. Now we have a closed session. Yeah, Mr. Williams? Oh, I'm sorry. The auditor did have a second part. Thank you, George. He is here tonight. He does have a report about how the audit's going to be going this year.
Do we have a question? Wayne?
I read your memo, and in the memo, you have here that, one reason for the revision that the timeline is delayed. Are there any other reasons?
The external auditor indicated that the testing I thought would be done in December is actually going to be done by them in January. So I suspect it could be a matter of some short staffing on their part.
Okay, and that's separate from the fact that there are 5 major programs versus 3 major programs?
Well, I think that, yeah, that's a different contribution.
So at what point did you find out about the 5 major programs versus the 3 major programs, and how did that affect the timeline?
It wasn't something that informed the goal that I had to have the audit done by the end of the calendar year. I simply thought that because we'd gotten everything to them, and so did the treasurer, and so did GIS, and so did the circuit clerk, that they could be able to perform it. If I could be totally candid, I would say that this is their last year on the contract, and I hesitate to second guess their alacrity.
And then you have here that the audit will be finished by very soon after the first of the year. Are we talking like 30 days? Are we talking?
No, I just received an email today that said that their assumed time would be mid-February, so exactly at the midpoint between the end of the year and the end of the first quarter.
Okay, any other questions for the auditor? None. I will adjourn the open session meeting, and can I get a motion to enter into closed session? Mr. Patterson.
I move that we adjourn this meeting and enter into executive session pursuant 5 ILCS 120-2 C5 to discuss the purchase or lease of real property for the use of the public body. I further move that the following individuals remain present: County Executive Darlene Kleppel, Recording Clerk Angie Patton, Circuit Clerk Susan McGrath.
Can I get a second?
Second.
Ms. Vinich, there or not? Okay, we need a vote. Roll call vote.
Taylor,
Yes.
Thorsland,
Yes.
Benish Thiernot,
Yes.
Williams,
Yes.
Esri,
Yes.
Furtado,
Yes.
Goss,
Yes.
Harper,
Yes.
King,
Yes.
Lakshin,
Yes.
McGuire,
Yes.
Paul,
Yes.
Rodriguez,
Yes.
Storr, Straub,
Yes.
Summers,
Yes.
Patterson.